The career of Marco Andretti is quite possibly the most contentious topic in IndyCar circles, and has been for years now. To some, he's one of the biggest busts in series history, while others are pretty indifferent about the guy. There's arguments to be made for both sides, but that's not what this video is for. Marco had some bad years, even the man himself can't deny that, but of the 15 full-time seasons he spent in the series, there's 3 that stand above the rest in terms of how bad they were, and this is one of them. From being the butt of a joke from onlookers and commentators alike, and really everything in between. So today, I tell the story of Marco Andretti's lousy 2016 IndyCar season. Entering the 2016 season, hopes were high but not unreasonably high either. After a consistently speedy 2015 season which saw him grab 2 podiums and a boatload of top 10s, some believed that this could be the turning point. These hopes were propped up by the resurgence of Graham Rahal, who had scored his first IndyCar win in 7 years during the 2015 IndyCar season, and was a serious title threat. Before the year started, Marco gave the media his expectations for the year ahead. Here's what he had to say. "I want to string together 2 or 3 wins, and I want Indy to be one of those. If we set our goal at Indy first, we would really help our chances in the championship, with it being double points. Indy is at the top, and then after that I just need race wins. Race wins really pay. From second to first is a lot of points, and that's how guys beat me last year. I was consistent, but I didn't win any races. We need the wins." Trust me when I say that we'll be revisiting this quote later on. You can also trust me when I say that this quote aged like whole milk in the Florida sun. Speaking of which, to kick the season off, IndyCar would race in St. Petersburg, and for Marco, it was a mediocre start to an extensively mediocre year. Get used to some mid-pack runs with little to no optimism surrounding them. It'll be a common theme throughout this video. While I say common, it's pretty much entirely pervasive throughout the whole season. Marco qualified 15th but would start 14th after Will Power got replaced by Oriol Servia after the Australian started suffering from concussion-like symptoms. Come race day, Marco had scrapped his way into the top 10, running in P6 before an overly opportunistic move on Luca Filippi ended in a spin and subsequent stall. Andretti would finish 15th that day, setting the tone for the year ahead. Phoenix was a highlight weekend for Marco, even though it was still pretty meh overall. Marco qualified in 11th, his best starting spot of the season. As for the race proper, he finished 13th. Not a lot else to say other than the fact that the qualifying run was just okay. Long Beach, meanwhile, was atrocious. Marco would start the race in stone cold last, 21st place. Matters race day were no better, as he took the checkered flag in a frankly depressing 19th. Marco's sponsor for this weekend was United Fiber, which explains how crap the weekend was. And before anyone says it, yes, I know they are in the food industry, they're in the tech sector, but let me slip in at least one pun. With how boringly bad this season is, I need to slip in at least a little bit of humor to keep y'all engaged. Things actually improved after this, as Barber and the Indy Road Course saw 19th place starts convert into finishes of 12th and 15th respectively. It's not the best result in the world. Really, if you're driving an Andretti equipment, a top 15 isn't something to brag about. But for this season, top 15 finishes were really the best Marco could get. Even at the Indy 500, which Marco outlined before the season started as his key event, Marco wasn't doing good. After a battle with his teammates for the final spot in the Fast 9, he would qualify for the race in 11th. When it came time for the 100th running of the Indy 500, Andretti Autosport was a dominant force throughout a lot of the day. Early on, it was Ryan Hunter-Reay and Townsend Bell battling up towards the front in Andretti cars. Then at the end, it was an Andretti 1-2, with Alexander Rossi scoring the victory. The team led 82 laps on the day, and Marco accounted for not a single one of them. He finished 13th that day, and was the only Andretti car not to lead a lap that day. Well, after a painfully mediocre start to the year, things had to improve at some point, right? The Detroit doubleheader was kinda like a box of Lucky Charms. The marshmallows are great, but the actual cereal pieces left a lot to be desired for. The cereal pieces in this absolutely terrible analogy were definitely race 1, where Marco started 19th and finished 16th. The marshmallows were race 2, as despite starting in last thanks to multiple issues in qualifying, Marco would cut through the field on his way to a 9th place finish. It was his second best result of the season, but in my opinion, it was his best race all year. And the best part about this is, Detroit actually gave me something to talk about. This race had substance, but unfortunately for us, there weren't a whole lot of moments like this for the rest of the year. Road America was a solid recovery, as a second to last place start got turned into a 12th place run. Iowa happened, and it was a pretty mediocre 14th, but then Toronto happened, and once again Marco scored a top 10. Once again it came from a last place start, clawing back up to 10th. It was a good run the top 10, the second of only 3 to come from this year. Mid-Ohio was the last race that saw really bad qualifying from Marco, lining up for the race in 21st. Come race day, Indy, Marco had some help from strategy that elevated him up to second, but by the checkered flag he would be in 13th. Still an alright result considering how the rest of the season went. Pocono and Texas were very similar, as they both ended in P12 finishes. Coming towards the end of the summer, the rumors surrounding Marco's future start to be a big talking point. It was a pretty big point of discussion during the broadcast of the race at Watkins Glen, and many of you know what's coming next.
I think that's what he needs. Marco definitely needs a change. You think there's anywhere else he could go, PT?
Well, I don't know if there's anywhere else he could go. The only other ride I could see him getting is maybe with Uber.
Ooh. Oh, damn.
According to Paul Tracy, Marco thought the comment was hilarious. Michael Andretti, meanwhile, was extremely butthurt about it, and even tried to get Paul Tracy fired. That reaction from Michael is arguably just as, if not even more funny than the comment itself. Anyways, getting back on track, Watkins Glen was a performance that embodied Marco's season quite succinctly. A poor qualifying result of 18th, and an okay race result of 12th. Then to round off the season in Sonoma, Marco had a good day. From a 14th place start, Marco would bring it home in P8, getting his best result of the season. Okay, so this season wasn't the worst in the world. I've covered seasons way worse than this. So why did Marco Andretti's 2016 season make its appearance in this series? Well, there's a couple reasons for that. This season wasn't flamingly bad, but was just boringly bad. He wasn't going out there and DNFing every week. Actually, it was the opposite of that. Marco only had a handful of incidents this entire season, and that's something that should be commended. But the bad kind of fieriness also meant that the good kind of fieriness was taken away with it. There were really no performances from Marco of note this season. And that's arguably even worse than having a season with a whole lot of DNFs. Of the 20 drivers to start every race that season, only 3 of them failed to score top 5 all year. One of them was rookie Max Chilton, the second was Jack Hawksworth in his 3rd year in the series, and the other was Marco Andretti, who made his debut in the series 10 years prior. 2016 was also the first season in Marco's career where he didn't score top 5 all year, and the only other seasons like it will come in 2019 and 2020. Both seasons I could make a video about in the future. There's more bad facts from the stats, and I'll go over those right now. This year was also the first season where Marco didn't lead a lap at all throughout the entire season, which for a driver in his 10th year in the series driving for Andretti Autosport is pretty pitiful. It was also the first year since 2009 where Marco didn't grab a podium, the first year since 2012 where he finished outside the top 15 in points, and 2016 also saw his worst average starting spot of his entire career. He even got his ass kicked by Alexander Rossi, who beat Marco in the championship by 91 points. In my opinion, only 2 seasons from Marco Andretti's entire career top 2016 the level of crap this one was. I'll see if anyone can guess those seasons in the comments. With 0 top 5s, 3 top 10s, an average start of 17.4, an average finish of 12.8, and a 16th place points finish, this season wasn't just lousy, but was a total disappointment. Let's revisit the quote from earlier on this video, now with the full knowledge of how the year went. I want to string together 2 or 3 wins, and I want Indy to be one of those. If we set our goal at Indy first, we would really help our chances in the championship, with it being double points. Indy is at the top, and then after that I just need race wins. Race wins really pay. From second to first is a lot of points, and that's how guys beat me last year. I was consistent, but I didn't win any races. We need the wins. It's safe to say that that plan did not turn out well. Thank you all for watching, and have a great afternoon.